You're listening to Access Manchester. It gives me immense pleasure to welcome to the studio a bunch of lads whose music I've been familiar with for a few years now. I've been looking forward to meeting them, been excited to meet them, and today's the first time I've met you. I've spoke to some of you on the phone, but DMA'S, welcome to Access Manchester.
Thanks for having us.
Matt, Johnny and Tommy, welcome to, is it your favourite city in the world or your second favourite?
We got a few now, but we love coming to Manchester, man. Yeah. Played our biggest show, actually, in the UK right. here, which was pretty special for us at the Vic Warehouse.
It was our biggest show ever that we've done in Manchester.
And
really.
So yeah, it's a special place for us.
Yeah, and you've been fans of the Manchester music scene. We know that for forever. I mean, when did that love of the city's music start? How long ago was that?
Probably when I was like 13, I'd say, because I got into it through my brother and my cousin, through like the Stone Roses and that, and then the kind of love for that kind of stuff kind of grew from there for me.
I had a group of mates who were kind of, just when we were growing up in Sydney, you know, who were into the kind of Britpop scene, we were kind of a little bit naive didn't realise how big it was really. Yeah. You know, just had a small group of mates. But Mason hadn't really listened to any British bands.
I don't know anything about English music at all. I've just sort of been thrown into it, to be honest. But
what were your earliest inspirations and musical influences before the Manchester thing? What else were you into?
Sort of like hip-hop music, like a lot of heavy metal.
So I used to listen
to Johnny and I were in a bluegrass band.
Really?
Yeah. Lots of country music and
amazing.
That kind of stuff.
So is that like Americana sort of bluegrass?
Yeah.
Or an Australian version of it?
Like there's a couple of songs off the DMA songs that have been written on banjos.
I always had a fascination with records that came from Australia. This is going back to the 80s when I first noticed it. That records that were made in Australia had a different sound than records that were made anywhere else in the world, I thought. And I'm not on about the musicianship, it was the actual sound of the recording. And I think, I'm talking about bands like, do you remember the Chills, a band called the Chills?
Yeah, New Zealand band.
Yeah, and even In Excess and Men at Work and all that, it was almost like the reverb that they were using was different than anybody else that was making records. And I've got a theory that it's because in the 80s, most of the recording studios in Australia were probably still using the 60s and 70s gear, whereas the rest of the world was getting into MIDI sequences. You know, we were all getting blitzed with like the Human League and Depeche Mode and stuff like all these sequences and, you know, MIDI sounds and early digital stuff. And then you'd hear a band like the Chills with Pink Frost from New Zealand or wherever, and that part of the world, and it just like different than anything that was going on the other records. And you could almost picture, when you listen to the music, you could almost picture those landscapes, you know, the Australian, New Zealand sort of landscapes, you know what I'm saying?
No, totally. And we saw the Chills play, actually. They played at Laneway, New Zealand. It's all those like those Flying Nun Records bands. They have that.
Sound.
They've got that sound that's cool, and it totally does remind me of like New Zealand and Australian kind of terrain. I
bet if you look into the technical side, we're going down a little rabbit hole here, but I'm not bothered. I'm into all this stuff. I bet if you look into the studio technology that they used, I bet it was like quite antiquated and vintage sort of stuff.
Like 20 years ago, it was like it took 3 months for like any new piece of equipment to get to Australia anyway after we were based here. And
so
stuff,
it's a geographical thing, wasn't it?
Yeah,
absolutely. What's happening in Australia music-wise at the moment? I know your brother's band Planet are doing all right, aren't they, Johnny?
Yeah, they're doing some stuff. About to release an EP. I think they premiered their first single a couple of hours ago, actually.
Has he still got that moustache? Did he get rid of it?
I don't know. It's pretty milky.
No, he's gone. It's gone.
Those guys need to sort that out.
They put a video out.
His little moustache. It's pretty milky. Yeah, it doesn't look good.
Yeah, they put a video out on YouTube, and all the comments are like, "Lose the tash, and redo your video."
Yeah,
I thought it looked
one
all
of them
right.
shaves it off, and then every time I see him, another one of them's got one. It's just like,
I really do.
Yeah.
So that's Johnny's brother Matty. He's got a band called Planet. If you like DMA'S,
they're actually on the plane right now.
Are they really?
Coming out here. Yeah.
Are they doing anything with you? Or is it just
no, nothing at the moment. We've had them on the tour here before, which is cool. Also, our mate Hatchie, Harriet, who plays as Hatchie, she's just released her debut album.
It's amazing,
which is cool. And our mate Paddy Harrismith, who plays on the Green Buzzard as well. So there's a lot of stuff coming out.
He used to play guitar for us.
That's right.
And he's in a band called Green Buzzard. They just released a song a couple of days ago.
And everybody's into Tame Impala at the moment over here, and King Lizard and the Wizard Gizzard, whatever they're called.
King Gizzard, those guys are lovely dudes.
They're good dudes.
Cool.
Yeah.
Beautiful music.
They've done like 15 albums or something. Yeah.
What's coming up next for you guys? I assume album number 3 is on its way.
Yeah, so we're going through our songs at the moment and just kind of working it all out. And
we're going into Rack Studios.
Yeah, next week. And it's the first time we've ever obviously we used Kim Moyes on the last record, but we were originally going to get him just to do the drums, and we were going to record it ourselves like we did Hill's End.
Yeah.
And he asked us if he could produce it, and whatnot. So we went along with that, but we've never really used producers. So I guess, other than the way that came up, so it's kind of nice that we had the chance for the first time to experiment with different producers and to record in London and stuff like that. So it's pretty exciting.
So that's Rack in London, yeah?
Yeah.
That's a pretty historical studio as well. It's got a lot of history.
Yeah.
Well, I think "You Sexy Thing" by Hot Chocolate was recorded there.
Yeah,
so
I was
we've
gonna
got
mention
a
that.
Couple of Hot Chocolate songs.
Yeah.
So if we go in, we're just going to come out sounding like that, which we're pretty
Hot
cool.
Chocolate.
Yeah, everything's going to sound like hot. Yeah.
I think it suited that, the hot chocolate sound. A bit of funk. A bit of funky there. I believe in miracles.
Yeah, for real.
I think a lot of the old glam records were made at Rack Studios. So bands
Yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah.
back the 70s bands, probably Boywork, I'm guessing, as well at some point.
Yeah.
The new album's come, it's out actually, the MTV Unplugged album recorded in Melbourne. Is that
Yeah.
right? Yeah, that's out now.
Yeah.
Beautiful piece of music showing you your acoustic best. Is there some orchestration on it as well?
Yeah.
Well, we had our friend Jenny, who plays in a band called I Know Leopard. She's really cool. She played violin.
Yeah.
And I used to play cello when I was a bit younger, so I dusted that off. And
You've been learning pedal steel as well. So
play
some
steel guitar, a bit of that.
Multi-instrumentalist.
Yeah.
We don't get many of them here.
Well, we put we didn't want to we didn't just want to do the songs, acoustic versions exactly how they were. We wanted to kind of change the instrumentation and tempos and structures and all that kind of stuff, which was a lot of hard work. But the actual tracking of it, because it's just the one gig, pretty easy way to make a record.
Sounds good to me. Right, Mason, Johnny and Tommy, great to meet you eventually, and good luck with that new album, the MTV Unplugged. Definitely see you soon when you come back to Manchester. Let me just ask you a question. When you've been in Manchester in the past, have you ever done any sightseeing, like the historical Manchester music addresses?
I went to watch the football, but that's about it.
That's not music.
No.
What about Salford
No,
Lads?
it's most places we go, it's always pretty brief.
Yeah, we don't have that much time.
Next time you come to Manchester, assuming you might be here long enough, I'll take you around some of the sites, like Salford Lads Club and where the Hacienda used to be, and
That would be
Let's
cool,
check
man.
that out.
Yeah,
and
that'd be
take you up
fun.
on
a
that.
bit of sightseeing. We
That'd
should
be
film
awesome.
that. Do a little film for the radio station, just showing you this is a spot where Noel Gallagher used to live, where he wrote his songs. You can see the actual flat where he wrote Definitely Maybe. You can see the windows where he used to live.
Let's go.
Stuff like that. Yeah?
That'd be sick. Cool, man. Thank you.
We'll do that on the next trip. But for now, on your way, DMA'S, love you loads. Thanks for popping in.
Thanks,
very much.
man.
Cool, man.